Herzlich willkommen, Moritz Schröder.
Vielen Dank. Thank you so much for this wonderful welcome. I just want to make a quick, let's say, organizational note. I'm aware that not only we're slightly over time, but I'm the last speaker before lunch. So bear with me. I'm the last thing that's keeping you from some wonderful South Tyrolean delights downstairs. I'm going to try and be quick, but I want to pick up the energy from also the last days and all the discussions we've had, and maybe try to take a look forward and where this whole thing might be going. Maybe before I dive deep into how AI is going to transform hospitality, I want to look at where AI actually is right now. And before we do that, let's maybe take a look at where I was. I think this is a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. So in your head, everyone imagine a group of salmons swimming down a river. I think we all have a small image in our head. This is what AI came up with a year and a half ago. And I mean, I know it's food again. Yeah, we're almost at lunch. This is, I mean, it's actually not bad as an image, right? Like these salmons, they look really juicy. But obviously it's slightly off. And I just want to say, when we had these presentations 2 years ago, obviously this was already pretty impressive. If you think of the intelligence and know-how it needs to create something like that, I mean, if you would have asked some of us to sketch something like that, obviously wouldn't have really worked. Well, that's not where we are anymore. I think there's another beautiful example. This is actually a video which a colleague of ours produced a few months ago. This is what you can do now with a phone and basically 5 minutes of your time. The AI is capable of interpreting videos, interpreting patterns, interpreting surfaces, and generating something which to us looks real. I mean, these surfaces, they look real. It actually looks like it's happening and we're experiencing it. And I think that's what AI is. It's shifting our perception of what's real. It's loosening these boundaries of what we used to perceive as human intelligence. Well, this is all fun and games. I mean, looks amazing, but no one's going to make any money off of that. So I want to kind of move into, let's say, the business aspect of where this whole AI thing might be moving. And I think there's an actually amazing example. Adobe, I mean, Photoshop, everyone knows Photoshop, I would assume, basic photo editing. There's a tool called Adobe Firefly, which is basically a layer on top of Photoshop. And I just want to say first, this is a promo video. Everyone who's seen a promo video, the reality is slightly different, but it goes in the same direction. And for me, this promo video shows what AI has become. Because AI nowadays is a different way of interacting with data and tools. Photoshop is still the same. It's still a Photoshop. It's still a photo editing tool. But the way we interact with it, it's prompt-driven. So instead of searching through a menu, you can just write a text. Say you want to add something, red arrow sign, it pops right into there. The tool anticipates what you want to do. So when you want to fill part of the image, it understands what you want to fill it with and extends that. It immerses you into this experience. And I think that's what's so exciting about AI right now, is that the tools we're using, I mean, they're shifting as well, but the way we interact with them, the way we manually change things in these tools has completely shifted. It's far more intuitive. I mean, anyone who's tried to learn Photoshop knows the struggle, knows how hard it is. And now, I would say a kid, or maybe not a kid, but Gen Z could probably be able to access something like that. And I think that's how we have to think about AI also, not this omnipotent, omni-knowing tool which is going to rationalize, I don't know, 80% of our jobs, but really this assistant which is helping us interact with data, which is obviously driving our everyday. And before I go into, I want to give some practical examples. I want to show kind of where it's already changing our day-to-day. But before I do that, I want to give kind of an outlook on what I believe where this might be in 10 years. And I just want to say these predictions are tricky. I think everyone who made a prediction about AI 10 years ago probably got corrected. But one thing I think very much, for example, is the booking experience. So right now, booking is cumbersome. finding the right hotels, finding the right areas you want to go, coordinating with your friends. My perception of how this might look 10 years down the road, and I just want to say, cautionary note, this might sound dystopian to some of you guys, I'm going to have a small agent on my phone, a small bot, and not only is it going to know all my preferences, but I can just tell it, hey, I want to book a tour with 2 or 3 of my friends. It links up with my friends' bots, and then they head out and start looking for the perfect experience, the perfect hotel, the right location. It books flights. It obviously already has my credit card info, so it just autonomously moves forward. And this, again, I know this might sound dystopian, but I think this is the way we have to think how these things might shift. And probably the most important part is, on the other end, I don't think we're going to have websites anymore, but we're also going to have a bot on the other end, from the hotels, from the airlines, from the hospitality industry, which is then servicing these requests. So I just want to, I know this is maybe a big leap forward, but I just want to kind of open your imagination to not think of AI just as a chatbot, but really think of it as a tool which goes far deeper. I think another thing which I just showed on the Photoshop slide is also the interactiveness. So I think AI is going to make everything interactive. And I think the most fun example to think of is a menu in a restaurant. A menu is very one-dimensional. There's information on it, you can perceive it, that's it. I could imagine in future this being more of an interaction, more of either through text or through audio or through images, personal preferences, maybe even syncing it with your personal biometric data. I know this is a far stretch out, but I just want to say I think this kind of back and forth between customer and experience is going to happen way more than we think nowadays. So this one-dimensional track is going to become very more two-dimensional. And I think the last part, and that's probably the most close to home already and the most realistic nowadays, is really knowledge management. So enabling teams. If you think about today onboarding teams, or also if maybe very experienced staffers leave an organization, how much knowledge gets lost, all of that in future, in my eyes, is in some way going to be consolidated through AI. AI is going to help team members join quicker, gain expert status a lot quicker. I mean, Joel just had a point earlier on about barkeeping. I'm not sure if that's the first part where I would start. I think there's some art to that, but there's definitely other areas where there's a lot quicker onboarding. So I think if we look at these 3 points, there's so many different dimensions. It's the interaction with data, it's the interaction between customers and experience, it's the interactions between team and knowledge, and that's what AI is. It's really smoothing these interactions. It's really enabling to transgress between these boundaries which existed so far. So that's my vision. You might share it. It might also give you some inspiration into thinking about your own businesses and your own hospitality in a different way. But there's a lot happening already. I mean, this is maybe a few years down the road. Right now, there's a lot of organizations using AI as we speak. And I think the first thing to take away, they're really struggling. So a lot of organizations are really struggling. There's a beautiful example some of you might have seen in the past. Air Canada is an airline which set up a bot with which you can interact to book your flights. Turns out this bot completely made up prices, which, as you can imagine, was pretty unfortunate for the airline. And I think this is one example of a company meaning well, trying to implement AI, trying to ease processes, trying to maybe also take a task which isn't so interesting for their employees and give it away, but maybe not thinking it all the way through or not having the right oversight. So I think the learning to take away here is also to very carefully integrate these tools, test a lot because you don't want to ruin the existing experience, or even worse, let the bot make legally binding contracts which you then have to pay up to. Another one, and I'm not sure if this is struggling or not, but I think it's a really interesting case. Airbnb preventing house parties. And this is not as sexy of a headline as you might think. This actually there was a lot of very negative backlash. So maybe the background to this story was Airbnb obviously hosting houses, and there's a lot of people who book these houses, maybe just for one night, invite all their friends, huge party, house is ruined, hosts super annoyed, and it's very hard to prevent that. So Airbnb set up an AI which anticipates if you want to book a party. So for example, if everyone on your guest list and you put them in through Airbnb is under 18, you're only booking for one night. If you're booking in the city you live in, all these kind of things the AI can then pick up. And this was a really interesting one because it was very controversial. On the one hand, a lot of hosts really applauded this, and a lot of hosts were very, very positive and said, this is great use of AI, really helping our day-to-day. And at the same time, a lot of customers were obviously pretty annoyed. There's a few stories of young 18-year-olds who are now trying to book Airbnbs and just got blocked by the system because it thought they were throwing a house party. So I think also the communicational aspect around this AI is really, really tricky. So who are my customers? Who are my suppliers? Who are the stakeholder groups I'm talking to? How do I involve them, and how do I make sure that there's no negative backlash to these tools I'm trying to use? So I think this is where some organizations have maybe already learned their lesson, but learned their lesson which others can learn from. Then I think there's the very, let's say, obvious ones. And I know I say obvious because I work in Berlin, I work at the AI campus. AI is literally what we do all day, so a lot of these cases seem very obvious to us, maybe not to others, but I think still many of these things have come across us. I mean, a chatbot, everyone's probably seen a chatbot by now. A lot of organizations are using chatbots, some of them work really, really well. I think it's a very straightforward case. Price optimization, everyone knows when we book a flight, it depends on where you're booking from, what device you're booking from, and what time you're booking. All these kind of things really, really depend the price, and I mean, a lot of organizations are picking that up. I thought Marriott, pretty obvious example. Wendy's is a burger chain from the US. I would say not that obvious of an example, but they actually introduced surge charging. So at certain times, the burgers are more expensive. Got a lot of media hype around it. They're still going back and forth and testing it in some organizations. Brings me back to the point, even if it's commercially maybe amazing, it might not be for your customer base. But I think this is still a straightforward case, and a lot of organizations are picking up the price optimization. The last one, tailoring, I put down miles more here. There's a lot of more organizations which obviously with the knowledge they have about their customers, the knowledge they have about customer behavior, really tailoring experiences. So this hyper-personalization. We see it with a lot of restaurants. We see it more and more with hotels who ask you to input data beforehand so that they can kind of tailor your experience. And I think this is happening quite a lot and is a very common case. But as I said, these are the obvious ones. I just wanted to list them here because I think they are interesting and are good to learn from and are definitely ones which organizations can implement. But I wanted to go into some cases which, as I put it, help some organizations really rethink this. Because I think how much AI can benefit an organization really depends on how you think about AI. One point is hiring, and we've already talked about hiring today, and I think we already talked about some AI in hiring, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but this headline, as you can see here, Hilton introduced a tool, the tool they actually used, it's called HireView, is a tool they used which uses AI along the whole hiring chain, really from sourcing, so from finding people to interacting with them, to scanning them, to kind of checking them, all the way to onboarding. And obviously, there's some human aspect here which needs to be maintained, but an organization as large as them, obviously, there's thousands of employees, and it's a very cumbersome process, and it's a limit to their growth to a certain degree because talent limits our growth, or the lack thereof. And I thought there were two really interesting numbers out of this case, and one of them was employee turnover. So they could actually show that they're better at retaining their employees through this better onboarding process. Employees are more happy with bringing in, or with the onboarding, with them being brought into the organization. And at the same time, obviously, they can fill a lot more space they couldn't fill before. So really finding the right people, knowing the resources the organization needs, and then scanning through profiles makes it a lot more efficient. And I think this is definitely something a lot of organizations need to look into to try to understand, if I want the best talent in the future, how do I target them properly and how do I onboard them properly? And this being paired with what Yael said earlier about also being kind of an attractive employee, this is obviously the key to then maintaining this talent level. Another area which I think a lot of us have already realized changed is search. So the way we search for information, maybe moving away from let's say, Google and very straightforward websites and really moving into chatbots, has obviously changed a lot of things. This is something I put in looking for a hotel for the night, and somehow Park Hotel Laurin popped up on the top. I don't know if anyone's here from them. Yeah? Well, whoever it is, you're doing a good job. You're already going in the right direction. But if we think about how search is going to change, and we have this classic search engine optimization, which a lot of people think of, so placing your hotel at the top on booking.com or on Google search or whatever, this is going to change. There's an interesting tool, it's called Rufus AI, and as you can already tell by the logo, it's part of Amazon. This is a bot they're currently developing to search your Amazon targets. So you don't just say, I'm looking for a shoe, but you say, I don't know, it's my little brother's birthday, he's so-and-so old, this is what his preferences are, this is what he did in the past, can you find a shoe for me? And that, obviously, on the one hand, the experience on that is already amazing, but on the other hand, it changes the way these targets need to look. And there's quite some organizations which are already picking that up. It's called generative AI optimization, so kind of away from search engine optimization, thinking about how do I need to place my products so that the Gen AI picks them up. And it might not be a case of today. I think these numbers are a bit back and forth. There's some uncertainty, but around about 4% of search volume online nowadays is already covered by some form of Gen AI. I personally believe this is going to increase really, really quickly. I think the far more interesting number is the trust. I mean, this is like ridiculous. There's so many people who just put something into ChatGPT. What is the best hotel? Boom, first result. Okay, I got it. And I think this is really tricky because it obviously tells us a lot about how we need to place our products in these tools so that they're also perceived by the customer in the same way. So there's a lot of organizations working on this already, but I think it's going to shift more and more in the future, and a lot more of us need to kind of change the way products are placed so that these bots are also open to them. The third part, and I already kind of talked about this, onboarding, I actually looked up the picture evolution of a barista, and that's what came up. I was looking for kind of this quick skill building. And again, Yael already talked about it. I talked about it earlier. This onboarding process is really going to shift. There's a ton of tools out there. I don't want to deny anything else. I brought one tool which I thought was really interesting. This tool is called Bounty, which a lot of people, or which is an onboarding tool, which uses AI to personalize this onboarding step. So really, from the first contact of the person to the organization, your first day at your new shop, hotel, whatever, to all the knowledge management, to all the security info, to HR info, to whatever they need. The accessibility of info through these tools with AI makes it so much smoother and so much quicker. And I think two information parts which I thought were really interesting. One is upselling. So actually, these onboardings help the people to become better at the skills they need in these organizations. And it's not just about, I don't know, how do I make the perfect mochaccino, but it's also about how do I use these tools and these practices which we've already established at our organization as a new joiner. So new talent becomes way more valuable to the organization a lot quicker. And the second one is actually from a different project. That's a project we did kind of away from hospitality, but in a warehouse, where we implemented a tool for the warehouse workers, where all the internal knowledge of all the supervisors was stored. And obviously, they were more happy with the onboarding. There was a higher quality of output, but the most interesting one was the oversight ratio. So really, you could have a lot less staff or oversight for more people. So this onboarding process is also far more efficient. And it kind of goes back to what I said before. This access to information is what's fundamentally going to shift. And that's why I think implementing these tools in an organization is really, really important. Now, I know time is running out, but I want to make 2 or 3 more important points. I've talked a lot about the what, kind of, or maybe the why in the beginning. Why is AI exciting? How's this going? What do we have to do? Everyone's telling you we have to do AI here, we have to do it there. And I think a lot of organizations forget the how, because there's this kind of where we want to be and where we are right now, and there's quite a fundamental gap. So I want to just briefly touch upon this kind of way forward and how we think about how organizations need to take their employees and customers on this journey with them. Because from my understanding, where the hospitality industry is right now is, on the one hand, obviously, client centricity. We want to make every customer happy. We want to make it the perfect experience for every person who kind of interacts with us. And at the same time, it kind of clashes with team centricity. You also want to make all your employees happy. You want to also kind of be part of the community. There's all these different dimensions, and just, I don't know, implementing a chatbot might help you on an organizational or on a business level, but obviously isn't going to take all your stakeholders on the journey. And I think this is a really, really important step and is often forgotten, this human touch in these tools. So really thinking about not what can I optimize, but how can I sustain what I already have with human touch, with human interaction, with human personalization of my experience, and extend that through an AI. Because I really, really don't believe AI is going to replace all of us. I hope so. And at the same time, I really think AI is going to enhance a lot of what we do. So when we look into an organization, how to do that, I think one point is definitely addressing the fears. So really talking to the people and talking to them how we want to implement this, why we want to implement this, what this might mean. And this is on the tiniest step. Like if we as an organization at some point introduce a chatbot, at some point introduce a prediction tool for something, it's just really important to communicate that to everyone. We've seen so many organizations who kind of just did it, and then we're super surprised when down the road there was some unhappy customers or employees. Second one is building around the user. I think this is often underestimated. So really not kind of doing AI for the sake of AI, but thinking what is the user really good at and how can I maybe complement or augment that. So what are maybe the most annoying parts of a job I can take away to enable my employees to work on the most interesting aspect. And then I think the last one is undercommitting. I know I'm up here on stage and I'm telling you about the AI future, but I really think we need to undercommit a lot more and not present AI as the savior, but really focus on the cases where they bring our organization forward. And I know I'm already over time, just 2 more points. So even if we think about all of that, even if we think about client centricity, customer centricity, if we think about the organization we want to take with us, if we think about the stakeholders who we really want to involve in this journey, when we look up the word AI and hospitality, this is what comes up. And for my personal taste, this looks really bleak. Like, this does not look exciting to me, but pretty scary. And I think especially for hospitality. There's a lot of other industries out there, and I don't know, maybe logistics. We're happy if big parts of logistics are automated. But hospitality is kind of about this human touch and is about this interaction. So really thinking about in my process, where do I have my strengths? What can I augment? What can I strengthen and enhance to improve the experience is key, because just replacing stuff and saying everything's AI now, it's going to get us here, and that's probably not where we want to end up. So taking away, final point, what to do on Monday. And this is, I mean it. I really wanted to take something actionable. A lot of these talks are very kind of big out there and abstract, but I really wanted to take a few core points. And I think the one thing is building on what you have. When we work with an organization comes to Merantix and says, hey, we want to build an AI application, the first thing we do is really say, what is your starting point? What are we building on? There's no point in just saying we're going to start doing AI. What is your core strength? What do your customers value you for? What do your employees value you for? All these kind of things. What do we have which we can enhance and strengthen? Because AI is a tool. And let's say a horrible product enhanced through an AI becomes a way more horrible product. Same for a process. So a good product which we can then enhance obviously gets us where we want to be. So I think that's the first part. The second one is really being pragmatic. Not trying to go kind of all out there, not trying to do these big hotshot cases. Again, organizations, we ask them, sit down, what are your strengths? And what's the most annoying thing? Like if you look at what you do every day, what annoys you? And then let's look at if those cases, we can maybe chip away at some of those and then really focus on the ones which derive value to your employees, to your customers, which really enhance the experience. And the last part, and this, I mean it, I want to see this on Monday, because I think this is the most important, is actually start. I mean, this sounds stupid, but AI, a lot of times when I speak to people, it's like, oh, AI is like this big thing, it's happening out there, it's kind of mystic. It isn't. There's hundreds of thousands of tools free online you can do right now. Like you can go on your phone, whatever problem you have, say, this and this and this, can AI solve it? There's 20 companies which are going to pop up at the top of your list. half of these tools are for free. And I really mean it. I want to encourage everyone on Monday, write down what are our strengths, what do we want to enhance, what are we maybe boring parts or parts we want to get rid of, and let's go. Let's just start. Let's ask ChatGPT, ask Perplexity, which is a great research tool, really try and find out what are these things I can already do, because there is so much. It's not this mystic, abstract tool. It's right there. It's at your fingertips, and you could use it on Monday. And my very final note on that, there's a great quote. I really love this. This actually was published in the newspaper, I think last week. I love it. I absolutely love it, because that's exactly what we don't want. We don't want the AI to be the creative one for us. We don't want AI to take over the experience. We want AI to do all the boring and annoying stuff, and then we can really embrace the excitement and kind of the experience we want to bring to our customers and really bring our value where we want it. Let AI take care of the rest. And with that, thank you so much for your time and attention. Please hand in your homework on Monday. Please, everyone, take it over. But for now, yeah, thank you so much.
Ja, vielen Dank, lieber Moritz. Das war, ich glaube, genau die Prise Inspiration, die es gebraucht hat. Und den Montag schon so einladend vorwegzunehmen, da wollen wir jetzt auch noch mit den beiden Machern dann drauf eingehen und mit euch. Nochmal vielen lieben Dank, Moritz. Du bist zum Mittagessen noch da, also sprecht den Moritz gerne an, wenn es nochmal konkreter werden soll, was Fragen betrifft.
Danke.
Danke.
Vielen Dank.